Hi, let's continue working on the sign up section. Let's write some more CSS code. So, back here. Let's start with the background color and I will show you why. So the first section we had was white, completely white. Then the second one had these very subtle gray background color. Then the next one was white again. So now, as you can guess, it's again time for a gray one. So that will be the first thing to do. And then, of course, starting to build a structure for each of these pricing plan columns. So give here some white space and starting to make this look better. So let's do that. So this section is called section plans. I'll put some white space here so we can see what's going on. Okay. So the first thing here is a background color. And I don't remember, so I will just copy this one. Okay. Now, let me check our HTML code. So I'll start to format the plan box here. Alright. So let's make this plan box white so that it looks different than the background color of the rest of the section. And I will say FFF. Okay, and I also want to give this some rounded corners. So for the radius of, let's say, 5 pixels here. And now I don't want it to be 100% of the parent width, so I will say with 90%. And then I will use the same technique as we used before to center it inside of its parent. Just to show you again, the parent of this one is the call box. So margin left 5%, which is half of the remaining 10% from 19 to 100. And now let me see this. Okay, so this has already these rounded corners and it's white. Now let's divide this into the 3 sections. Okay, but first let me explain you why I put this box into the column, such as I promised you I would explain you. So this situation here, why I created this div inside of the column. Because if I hadn't, I wouldn't be able to make the plan box as wide as I wanted it, only 90%, with the white background color. It would not have been possible to do this by just formatting this column or adding some box here. So this was the solution that I had to use. Great, so now let's section each of those subsections. And in order to do that, I will do it like this. Because, as we defined it, we have 3 divs. This one, and this one. So I want them to have a padding of 15 pixels each, let's say. And what's also important is to make a a little separation between them, we will have some border at the bottom of each of them. So a nice little border with a very light color, very subtle gray. So only one pixel and a solid color. And let's again start with white and then use the color picker to adjust the color. So a very subtle color here, which we almost won't notice. So for example, this one, we will then check it. But for now we can just format some other things as well. Let me see what we got here. For example, this. Let's start at the beginning. Now the H3 is already defined, so let's continue with the plan price. And the plan price, I want it to be like really big. So font size, for instance, 300%. And maybe a margin to the bottom to that paragraph of 10 pixels. And the next paragraph is plan price meal, if you remember. I don't know yet what to put here, so let's just look at our website. Okay. Not bad, right? But this looks a little bit overwhelming here, and such as I told you, when you choose to use very big font sizes, the best thing to do is to actually reduce the font weight, which is what we're going to do. And also we will reduce this text, so we only want this to be this big, and there's actually an easy way to do this. Also, I think this text is a little too big here, so let's make those changes. So first thing, I will just decrease this here to, let's say, 80%. Then we should totally decrease the font weight here to 100. And let me show you this. So these are the options we have, which we included in the beginning: 100, 300, 400, and 300 italic. So I will use this font weight, which is the lowest that we have available. And now we want to style this per month text in a different way. And I will now show you another HTML element for doing that, which is, where is it? Which is this one. This is called span, and span has only one purpose, basically. Its purpose is to just appear inside a paragraph, for example, and style some text in a different way than the rest, which is exactly what we want here. So the same thing goes for this here and down here. What's the difference? That it's per meal here. So we can now go ahead and format this in a different way. So we can say plan price, and then the span inside of it can have a different font size. Now the thing is that this span here is a child of this plan price, which has a font size of 300%. Now if we would say font size equals 100%, then this 100% would not be the base size of 20 pixels, but this 300%, because it is the parent font size. So if we want a smaller font size, we have to choose a very small number, like for instance 30%. So we have 30% of these 300 and not of the initial 20 pixels. Okay. And another thing is that we want the font weight back to 300 here, because once again, this is a parent element and it says font weight is 100. And so this element will inherit that value. And so in order to put it back to 300, we have to specifically say, yeah, we want it to be 300. Okay, another thing we can do here is to make this orange to stand out even more, this plan price. As you remember, color should be used to draw attention to important elements, and I think the price is pretty important here. So I will make it orange and it will stand out this way. Alright, so I think this first part here already looks quite nice, isn't it? So next, let's take care of these lists here. So we just say plan box UL. And we want, of course, no list style. And now let's add some white space between those list elements. So this is pretty straightforward as well. So for instance, we can say we want a 5-pixel padding at the top and at the bottom of each of those elements, and none on the sides. Alright, now as for the icons, one thing that I should have done right from the beginning is to say that these are small icons with this class that we defined before. I hope you remember that. Since I forgot it, I'll do this right now. So all of these are small icons. And let's check that out. Alright, this looks nice actually. So now let's center these one. And I also noticed one strange thing, which is, since we don't have this paragraph here, we left it empty, this line completely disappeared. So what we have to do is to put a space there. Right, so I will do that. And where is it? Here's the space. And in fact, adding just a simple space, just like this, will not do anything. We have to use a special character, such as I told you before. There are those special HTML special characters, and for a space, it's ampersand NBSP. So you can find all of these in the course ebook. And hopefully this will solve that problem. Check this. Yeah, it does. So it's now like an empty line. And now let's center this button. Should be pretty easy. Maybe a good way to doing that is to simply select the last plan box and then center its content. So we already learned that as well. So plan box and then the div, and then simply select the last child. And we say text align center. Pretty easy. And that's it. Now you then don't see those borders here because the box is selected. Let me deselect it. Now you notice maybe you don't see it, but here is a gray line, and that's obvious because we define it that way. We said that all those 3 divs should have these lines, but of course the last one shouldn't, and so we will take that away. Another thing that we should do here, I think, is to maybe highlight this box here with a little gray background. Something between this darker gray and this white here. So let's do those two things. So first thing, we want no border at all, so border none here in the last child, and the first child should have a nice background color. The secret here is to be very subtle. We want to make a difference, but a difference that doesn't pop out so much. We want to be subtle because that's a great way of doing beautiful design. So just say background color, again starting like this, and let's choose a great background color. Okay, this should be good. Okay. It's actually hard to see, but it makes a difference, believe me. So now these rounded bottoms are gone. You probably don't see it because the video may be too small, but these rounded borders are really gone. And I'm going to fix that in a moment. And now I want to show you another CSS property, which is box shadow. And we can add a nice effect here. Once again, a very subtle box shadow, just so that I can show you how this works, because the box shadow is a very much used CSS property. So I think it's important that you learn this as well. So fixing those border radius, I can say border top left radius should have also those 5 pixels, and border top right 5 pixels. And now let's add a nice box shadow to the entire box, and we will do this right here. So it's box shadow, and now the first value here is for the x-axis offset, and we don't want any of that. Then the second one is for the y-axis offset, and I will say 2 pixels here. And now the blur, I also want 2 pixels. And the last value is the color. And I will want a very subtle gray here again, which is not so visible. I don't know, something like this maybe. So let's see. No, this was too dark. This was already too dark. So once again, this is designing in the browser. We will change the color until it looks good. Alright. You will not see this in this video because it's really subtle, but in your browser you will notice it, I'm sure. Alright, so we have one more section completed. Our website is almost done here. So we only have one more section and then the footer. This is great. So take a break now to digest all the things you learned so far, or come with me right to the next section where we'll build our simple HTML form.